Hello there. These last few days I've been rereading an old book by Thomas and Olga de Hartman, Our Lives with Mr. Gurdjieff, which is a great book. It's from the early part of Gurdjieff's teaching, when him and his group, they were fleeing the communist revolution in Russia and doing a lot of very interesting work on themselves along the way. Here, this is a section. One day, Mr. Gurdjieff called us together and told us that we must become acquainted with the origin of the work. The beginning, he told us, was a prearranged meeting in Egypt at the foot of one of the pyramids. There, 3 persons met after long years of separate work in places where initiation centers were still maintained. The first of these 3 was a man of science who was able, through Western knowledge, to verify and evaluate in a scientific way all that was apparently miraculous. The second man was a connoisseur of religions and their histories. And the third man could be called a man of being. The result of the meeting of these 3 men was the formation of organizations of people in suitable places and in suitable conditions, such as, said Mr. Gurdjieff, our group in the Essentuki branch of the International Fellowship for Realization Through Work. The real purpose of the work in Essentuki could become clear only if a man gave his attention to the idea of the crystallization of the soul. The products of food, both coarse food and air, are necessary, but without impressions, the great achievement, the crystallization, cannot take place. In this effort a man can rarely succeed by himself. Almost always someone of great wisdom, a teacher, has to be near the pupil. Material of the special quality received from impressions has to exist in the pupil if the teacher is to help this transformation to take place. To build up a sufficient quantity of this material, which the pupil has to collect by his own effort, some kinds of isolated reservoirs are necessary where special conditions permit this material to be deposited. Well, Gurdjieff is clearly the man of being, and what that means is that when Gurdjieff was young, his father made him do all sorts of work, physical work, farming work, working with carpets, as well as being in an environment where his father would tell folk tales from that region in the evening and have long philosophical conversations, a very fertile place to be. Gurdjieff said that he had an organic weakness in his intellectual center, and my interpretation of that, he mentions that somewhere offhand, but my interpretation of that is that Gurdjieff was weak in the intellect, and so he made up for that by working, by trying to find a spiritual path that involved engaging in different types of practical work. And he managed to develop himself that way, and thereby he created a very unusual understanding of human life. Particularly, he could see and experience within him the crystallization of material. He said that all things were material. In other words, he was a specialist teacher who could experience inside of him the materialized results of the spiritualizing process. If somebody did certain types of exercises in a certain way, there would be a literal deposit of being data, crystallized inside his soul.